I'd like to start off, please, by all means, have a seat and make yourself comfortable. I'd like to welcome all the veterans to Memorial Park at Squantum Woods. I want to thank you all for being here today. I'd like to recognize some of the invited guests, and I'm going to try to recognize all of the veterans that are here today. We did the best we could to write your names down as you came in, but very grateful to have our Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos here with us today. Representative Greg Amory, who's also a candidate for Secretary of State. Hopefully in a couple of years we'll be announcing you as Secretary of State, Greg Amory. Senator Val Lawson, Council President Robert Brittle, Council Vice President Bob Rodericks, Councilman Nate Cahoon of Ward 3, School Committee Member Jennifer Azanaro. We have members of the Mayor's Council on Veterans Affairs. We have Jordan Pacheco, Lucy Stoddard, and Rose Pereira, who were able to make it today. Most importantly, I'd like to welcome all of our guests of honor, our veterans who are here today. And this day is really about them, recognizing what they've done for our country and our freedom. U.S. Naval Reserve Petty Officer 3rd Class Bob Lima, who served 2 years active duty from 1969 to 1975. U.S. Army Specialist Class Ken Gauscher, who's served from 1959 to 1962. U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Bob Fricka, who served in the Korean conflict. Mr. Joseph Gomes, who is, I was able to help celebrate his 101-year birthday, who will be turning 102 this year. He's here today with his wife, his daughter Susan, and son-in-law Stephen. The members of our Honor Guard, we have a couple of veterans who couldn't be with us today, but they're part of our Police Honor Guard, Roland Estrada and Mike Mercedes. I also want to recognize our Director of Administration, Napoleon Gonzalez, who is also a Army veteran. And I'm going to read off the next list of names and the branches they served in. It's quite a few, but it makes me happy to see that people took time out of the day to come here today. So we have Michael Reynolds, U.S. Navy, Bob Franklin, U.S. Army, Ken Gauscher, I mentioned earlier, U.S. Navy, Wayne Aldridge, U.S. Navy, Richard Ferrara, U.S. Army, Nicholas Costa on the Bugle, U.S. Air Force, Michael Carey of the East Providence Fire Department, U.S. Marine Corps, Ian Cook, U.S. Army, Edward Boudreaux, U.S. Navy, David Santagata, U.S. Air Force, Jordan Pacheco, U.S. Air Force, Joseph Vargas, U.S. Navy, Peter Barker, U.S. Army, Greg Doobie, U.S. Air Force, Joseph Andriozzi, U.S. Army, Barry O'Connor, U.S. Marine Corps, Robert Lima, U.S. Navy, Rich Seamus, U.S. Army, Ralph Dussatel, U.S. Navy, Jason Cordero, U.S. Coast Guard, Eugene Savory, U.S. Air Force, William Atwell, U.S. Air Force, Richard Dieter, U.S. Army, Dennis Pacheco, U.S. Army, Manny Emerald, United States Marine Corps, Tom Taylor, U.S. Navy, Stephen Foley, the British Navy. There he is. He's son-in-law to Mr. Gomes, and I think the British were our allies, so we can recognize him today. Bob Landy, U.S. Army, Henry Caparco, United States Marine Corps, is also part of our Veterans Council. Peter Barilla, U.S. Air Force. And if I left any names off, I certainly apologize. We're also honored here to have Chief Francisconi of the East Providence Police Department. I saw Chief Quick here. I see, I lost my speaker, but that's okay. You guys can hear me. I also see former East Providence Mayor and Council President, Dr. Isidore Ramos. Test. It's not working. We also have Dr. Isidore Ramos, who's here with us today. And I'll try my best to speak out loud. You guys can hear my voice. We have Representative Kazarian. I see that she joined us also today. I just don't want to leave anybody out. Today is about remembering our veterans. And on the 11th hour of the 11th day, on the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended. Because of the ending of the war in 1918, November 11th became known throughout our nation and universally as a day of celebration. Originally declared Armistice Day, the day was renamed Veterans Day as a way to honor all of our veterans who served. So today, on this 11th day of the 11th month, we honor all of our veterans, past, present, past and present, who placed their lives on the line for our freedom. Those men and women these men and women were just ordinary people like you and I until they heard the call to duty. They answered that call. They left their livelihoods. They left their loved ones. They left their homes. They did that not for the recognition. They did it to protect us, to protect our nation, so that all of us can continue to maintain our way of life. As we honor all of you today and all of our veterans today, as we remember everything you fought for and all of your great deeds, we also salute those who continue to fight for our nation. The responsibility to defend all of our freedoms is not just our military men and women, it is for us too. We must all share in that duty through our way of life. Words are not enough to thank you all for what you've done and what you continue to do. I am forever grateful to live in a country that offers great opportunities, and those opportunities are made available because of the people who are here today represented and being honored. I had the opportunity to celebrate with some of our local veterans at a small celebration at our senior center the other day. It was wonderful to sit down and talk to them one-on-one and hear their stories. It gives me great joy knowing that East Providence is home to many, many veterans. Passing on the street or the local grocery store, you may notice a veteran. Hopefully you stop and thank that veteran, because we never can say it enough. We thank you, we thank our veterans. I want to thank our police and fire honor guard, who do an incredible job representing not only the departments that they work for, but representing our city at these type of events. Want to thank the Boys and Girls Scouts who are behind us, who did a great job greeting the visitors here today. And I just don't want to leave anybody out, because these type of things come together because of all your work. I certainly want to thank Andrea and Patricia for helping to organize and put this event together. I'd like to call on a couple of people to come up and say a few words. I'm going to start out with our very own Lieutenant Governor, Sabina Matos. She come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. It's truly a pleasure for me to be here today in this ceremony. And I come to East Providence so often, I feel like home already, so thank you. I just want to say, I have a message for you on behalf of the Governor McKee. He wants to let you know that he's really in East Providence, because he told you yesterday he was going to be here. He's just around the corner in another event, is trying to be here. I was with him right now. But again, I just want to say thank you for letting me join you on this celebration and this beautiful garden of flag. This past 6 months, I had been traveling the state of Rhode Island, and I had the opportunity, because of the work that my office does, to work with a lot of veterans and to get to know the veterans community closer even more. It could be at a BFW or at an event at the State House. And it has been a humbling experience for me to see the sacrifice that they have made and that their family have made. And it's truly an honor for me to be here just to pay my respect to all of you for what you have done for this nation. I have someone that has been benefiting from what your sacrifices, what you have done as a new immigrant to this country. And I want to say thank you for your sacrifice, and we cannot say thank you enough. So, Mayor, I'm so glad to be here again, and I just want to say thank you for including me today. Thanks.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And we do joke around. We love seeing you when you come visit East Providence, and we've been the benefactor of having you and the governor attend. And I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. The governor is going to try to make it here today. He's at another event. If he can break away from that, he will stop by and offer a few words. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Representative Greg Amory to say a few words.
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor. I'll take this opportunity to talk about my day job a little bit. I'm the athletic director at East Providence High School, and to remind our veterans that all veterans are welcome to East Providence athletic events, free of charge, indoors and outdoors. That has been our policy since I became the athletic director, and I'm happy to say that we have veterans come to all of our games, and we welcome you as an important part of our community. Mr. Mayor, thank you for organizing this special day. We gather here today at this beautiful place of respect honor, and remembrance on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And we are in the 11th hour. Not many Veterans Day events happen in the 11th hour, but this one is happening in the 11th hour. This commemorates the origins of the sacred day associated, as Mayor De Silva said, with the armistice for World War I, 1918, also called the War to End All Wars. Well, we know, unfortunately, by your presence here today, that was not true. That was not true. But Americans have answered the call time and time again to serve their nation. We also appropriately gather aside this parkway, named in honor of our veterans. And we do so with humility and appreciation for those who heeded the highest call to service to their country. To paraphrase Lincoln at Gettysburg, people will little note nor long remember what we say here today. But it is our sacred duty as citizens to never forget the sacrifice and service of those who have worn and continue to wear the uniform of the armed services of the United States. It has been said many times because it is so true. While we rightfully and solemnly come here today to honor our veterans, we can never honor them in the way that they have honored us with their selfless sacrifice. May God bless and watch over our veterans, their families, and those men and women in uniform serving at home and across the globe. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to call on Senator Val Lawson to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. It's an honor to be here with you today to acknowledge and thank all of our veterans. Every individual who has served our nation has done so voluntarily, unselfishly, and put themselves at risk and made sacrifices for our nation and our citizens. All of our veterans, all of you are extraordinary Americans. You are our family, our friends, and our neighbors. And I'm proud to say that my father and my brother were both Marines. You all inspire us to be better Americans and deserve our respect and our gratitude. And Mr. Gomes, I'd especially like to thank you for your activism and service to our nation and community. And I hope at 101 I'm as active as you are. So today and every day we must remember the sacrifices and service of all of our veterans. And thank you all the time. So thank all of you who have served and enjoy your day. Thank you.
I would like to call on East Providence City Council President, Mr. Robert Brittle, to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here this lovely afternoon. What day couldn't have been a better day that we have here on a November afternoon. But the first thing that came to my mind when the Mayor had asked me would I be interested in coming up and speaking here this afternoon was the work that I do at Rhode Island Housing. I'm a design and construction specialist there, without going into the detail. One of the projects that I happen to be so fortunate to work on is converting a two-bay garage into a single bedroom apartment for a veteran, but more importantly, for a homeless veteran. And it's not often that we get to finance these type of projects. It's not often that we get to see these projects. But here we have something that's kind of unique the way I look at it. So here we have a dilapidated garage that is being converted into an apartment for someone to live in, that someone does not have a house or a home. And this is something that's dear and close to my heart. When I had the opportunity to work on this project, I thought how unique this is, that we could take someone, not only a veteran, but a homeless veteran, take them off the street and provide a home for this individual. And this was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about coming up here to speak. Now in the past, I've talked about my father, I've talked about my uncles, how they served, from my father's oldest brother who served in World War II to my father who served in the Korean War. and the stories that they tell, and the stories and how they volunteered to go into the war. And some of them was even, at that point in time, not even of age to go into the war. However, they went into the war and they fought for their country. And it was that kind of respect that gave me growing up as an individual for our veterans. And what you did to give me the opportunity to stand here in front of all of you this evening and speak. So I want to thank you, veterans. I want to thank my Councilman Cahoon, who I sit by. I never get the chance to thank you, but I'm going to thank you today for your services that you provide to this nation. And I want to thank all of you as well. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Council President Brittle. We're almost wrapping up the speaking portion. I'm going to call on Council Vice President Bob Rodriguez to say a couple of remarks, and then I'll be calling on Councilman Cahoon, and that should conclude our speaking portion. Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mr. Gomes and all veterans who are here today, I thank you for giving me a lifetime of doing the things that I enjoy doing in peace. As I think of all of you today, the veterans, I share the story of my dad, who served in the South Pacific in World War II, and he was aboard the USS Calvin Coolidge carrier ship with over 5,000 soldiers. It hit a sea mine, and as it was sinking, most of the soldiers got off. There were a few that didn't make it, and my dad tells me how the captain of that ship, who happened to be from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, Captain Hewitt, heard that there were still soldiers on the ship trapped. So he somehow made his way back to the ship, got on it, freed all of them. Exhausted, he couldn't get off himself, and he perished. And there's a monument in the South Pacific Island today to his name. One of the many stories we don't always hear, because that greatest generation doesn't speak much about the war. Thankfully, my dad was able to come home. So on behalf of all veterans, I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, and thank the mayor for putting together this service today. Thank you again.
The next person is not only a councilman and continues to serve our community, but also served our nation as a captain in the Marines, the Navy, Air Force. All right, I knew it was one of those. I didn't have it right. Captain in the Air Force. I want to call up Captain Nate Cahoon to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask us to undertake a little thought exercise today, if we could. We'll start with a definition, and the word that we're going to define is mission. Our mission is defined as an important assignment carried out for political, religious, or commercial purposes. Now, these are words that I think most of us are familiar with, and if prompted for a definition of the word mission, I think we'd all stumble upon this definition in more or less the same sequence, you know, in a reasonable period of time. But today I'm going to ask those of you who are not veterans to try to gain a deeper understanding of that word. With effort, with a little luck, you can all close your eyes tonight and maybe understand a little bit about how veterans think of the word mission. Saratoga, Bunker Hill, Trenton, Yorktown. It was in these places that our American veterans first captured our freedom. In the face of overwhelming military superiority and extraordinarily long odds, it was veterans who stood up and said, "This is ours." Antietam, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Gettysburg. It was in these places that our American veterans fought, bled, and died with and against their own brothers to pull our nation back from the brink of suicide. In dark, uncertain days, it was our veterans who stood up and said, "We shall not die." Argonne, the Somme, Omaha Beach, Midway, Anzio, the Ardennes, Iwo Jima, Chosin Reservoir, Heartbreak Hill, Fuyen, Quezon, Aljara, Baghdad, Kandahar. In these and 1,000 more blasted heaths, frozen hellscapes, and snake-infested jungles, our American veterans plunged headlong into the fray. In every American crisis since the shot heard round the world, it was our veterans who, again, fought, bled, and died, saying all the while, we shall not fail. Why? Whether or not you're familiar with these places and their consequences, I can assure you that our American veterans are. Our veterans associate these names with despair, disease, and death. Our American veterans returned from these places with shattered limbs and broken psyches. They returned home oftentimes to find their families gone, their fortunes leveled. Far too often, they returned to find an ungrateful public waiting with venomous words and spiteful actions. And far too often, they did not return at all. Yet time and time again, our American veterans have heeded our call. So our mission today, if you choose to accept it, is to understand why. Read the books, watch the films, talk to a vet, really try to gain an understanding of what that term mission means to them and why time and time again they're there when we call. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Joseph Gomes. Mr. Joseph Gomes is an East Providence resident who served in the United States Airborne. If there are units in the United States military that are more emblematic of sacrifice, duty, and heroism than the airborne units, I don't know what they are. So Mr. Gomes is here with his wife Madeline, his daughter Susan, and his son-in-law Stephen, who flew in here from California to be with him. So everybody give a warm welcome to Mr. Gomes.
Next year, we're gonna have Nate Cahoon sing all of those songs so you can hear him better. But that was wonderful. Thank you. And now, Nick Costa. Now the Bristol County Pipe and Drums will entertain us with some patriotic tunes.